everyone. I am Matt Williamson. How's it going this fine day? Things are good on this end. I hope you're doing well. I am recording this right after doing the drive for Steelers.com on trade deadline day. So the trade deadline, as you probably know by now, has come and gone, and the Steelers didn't do anything. Well, they added Duggar a few days ago, but that doesn't officially count because it didn't happen in the last couple hours before the trade deadline, whatever. I, like many of you, were kind of hoping for a wide receiver. Don't get me wrong. And there were a lot of names thrown out there that were certainly of interest. I never really thought Olave or Waddle were all that realistic because I just couldn't see, think as those around you think. I couldn't really see those teams moving on from those players at a price that would really make it worth the Steelers' time. But the two interesting ones, and I want to touch on them, are Shaheed, who ended up going to the Seahawks for a 4th and 5th round pick, and Myers, who ended up going from the Raiders to the Jags for a 4th and 6th round pick. Similar compensation for both. And frankly, a little more than I expected for both. So I think what happened in this trade market were, yes, there were 6 or 7 terrible teams. The Raiders and Saints certainly qualified. Clearly the Jets qualified. But I also think that teams like Dallas were buyers. Were there 20, 22 teams, including the Steelers, that would be more buyers than sellers? I think so. I think that just how the wins and losses have fallen over the last couple weeks, that more teams were in the market to add rather than subtract. Which we're not talking about huge difference, but I think the price for everybody, all the players that moved, was kind of at an all-time high. I think the market was good for sellers. And we know the Steelers aren't going to overpay. And frankly, I'm very happy they didn't do Mike Williams for a 5th round pick. Like they did 1 year ago, basically today. I would have loved to add Myers. I would have loved to add Shaheed. But let's think big picture. Do we really think either one of those players puts them over the top? Not really. Mid-round picks, 4th rounders in particular, not really the 6th, but mid-round picks are really valuable in this league because that could turn into a starting guard for you for the next 4 years on a super cheap deal. I'm not big on let's hoard all the picks because we're going to move up in the 1st round and get the next Ben Roethlisberger. Frankly, and I'll do a podcast on this at some point, that's looking less and less likely. And the trade deadline had a lot to do with that, with all these teams picking up extra firsts. And the college landscape and all the teams in the league that need quarterbacks. I'm much less confident than I was this summer that the Steelers will be in a great position to grab their next franchise quarterback in the 1st round. That being said, what I talked to you guys a lot about too, 5th and 6th round picks aren't going to get you there. That's not going to get you from 22 up to 8. Here, I'll throw in a 4th. Teams don't care about that. That being said, I still am very happy. And when we start doing mock drafts and things of that nature, which I know are a long time away, I think you guys will be really happy with all the mid-round picks the Steelers have. Now, this isn't really quarterback related, but when we start doing mocks and you take 2 5ths and you move into the 3rd round for the 10th best wide receiver on the board, I think you'll be real happy that you have the wealth of picks that you do. It just gives you a lot of flexibility. Myers and Shaheed are very different players. I would have loved to have got either one. Don't get me wrong. But they're hardly throwing to wide receivers overall. I have hope for Austin and Wilson. Of course, the elephant in the room and everyone on the planet, including myself, has said, well, what if Metcalf gets hurt? Yeah, you'd be in huge trouble. But I really don't, in hindsight, have a problem with them staying put. And there it is. I don't think the Steelers will win the Super Bowl either way. So that's my thoughts. I just wanted to react to that real quick.
Football season's finally here. Time to check out the latest odds, futures, and win totals on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Think the Steelers are headed to the Super Bowl? Lock in your bets today. Whatever your game, FanDuel Sportsbook delivers the latest lines, futures, and specials so you can join in on all the action.
Some other little things that came out of the South Side today, and some things I wanted to talk about as well, are Mike Tomlin's press conference was today, and he basically just said, and coaches rarely do this, and he even said it before the Steeler game against this past week, that against Colts, that Ramsey is basically, I think he said, exclusively a safety right now. Now, that doesn't mean he can't move back to corner at some point, or if Slay falls off or whatever. But I like it. I really think the combination of Ramsey and Duggar was very fruitful, stabilizing. I think it was good work by the players, of course, and could only get better with Duggar. And I think Ramsey's value as that leader, safety, he also will come in the slot and blitz and things like that too, is the best usage of him right now. I don't want him particularly lining up outside the numbers and press coverage anymore. That's not really what he does. Speaking of safeties, though, I am still intrigued with Peppers, who, remember, missed this game because of illness. So I know that we haven't seen a lot of him lately. He's kind of out of sight, out of mind. You notice I don't bring up Chuck Clark because I think he can't run anymore and I have no interest in him. But I am real curious to see what Peppers' role is this week and in the early weeks coming forward. I think there's a lot of talent there. I think there's a lot of talent with Duggar and Peppers and Ramsey, obviously. But it's funny, they're all high pedigree guys. Maybe none of them move like they used to, but they've had high moments, and I think that that's a intriguing combination. And we'll see how long Ramsey stays there. Maybe he finishes his career at safety, but I think he's a real good one. Last thing I want to mention too, and I've brought him up a few times, is Payton Wilson. Now, we talked a lot about like this 4-3 look that the Steelers gave last week, and I thought it was a nice wrinkle, with Harrison being kind of your close to the ball, second level thumper. But a lot of it, if you keep watching too, is a real trust in Wilson as a coverage player. Kind of used him more like a strong safety than a linebacker. And, we're splitting hairs on what we're going to call him. But I think Wilson's coming on really strong and is in a really good point in his career, something we've talked about the last couple of days. And even going back, I've mentioned this too, after that debacle against the Packers, especially in the second half, I told you guys the only one of the Steelers' back seven players that should hold their head high after that game is Payton Wilson. Well, I thought he took it up even another step, and they put even more on his plate in terms of usage. In coverage, I'm talking about here. But overall, I think he has been, quiet or not, I know he had a big play, so everyone paid attention to that, really, really coming on strong. And they're putting a lot more on his plate, too. So he's just another guy, middle of the field defender is kind of the second half of this podcast theme, where I'm feeling a lot better about it. Now, does that mean you're weak on the outside? I don't know. I mean, I'm not big on Slay, but he is what he is at this point. I'm expecting more zone. I am an Eccles fan. I still need to find out what the health status is of Trice, and I'll talk to people tomorrow. I'll have better news on that. Pierre's in the mix, and he's always going to be there. But I wonder, if Ramsey, again, we're splitting hairs, is safety only, exclusively a safety, as Coach said, or all of a sudden you're weak at corner. Well, I guess that wouldn't be all of a sudden. You've been pretty bad at corner all year. But overall, middle of the field coverage players, I really like where this team's at right now. Yes, I would have loved to grab a Shaheed or a Myers, but at that cost, it was not real conducive to big team building. And the thing I didn't mention early in the show was then you got to extend them and pay these guys too, so it's a double whammy. That's all I got for now. I'll probably do a Steeler mailbag with you guys tomorrow. It's been a little while, and then we'll preview the Chargers. All right, take care.